Flash CS5 classroom in the book. In this lesson, we'll be learning how to create and edit symbols. Our objectives for this lesson is to learn how to import Illustrator and Photoshop artwork, learn how to create new symbols, edit symbols, understand the difference between symbol types, understand the difference between symbols and instances, use rulers and guides to position objects on the stage, adjust transparency and color, and to apply blending effects. Apply special effects with filters and position objects in 3D space. So let's go on to our project here. So let's go on to see what is the final end product of our project. So we just click on the Swift file, and what we got to do is create this static illustration which uses pictures from Illustrator and some Photoshop files. Okay, so let's come in here and create new ActionScript 3 file, and we're going to set the stage to 600 pixels wide and 450 pixels high. Okay, and we got to click OK and File, Save As. Okay, Lesson 3, Start 03, working copy.fla, and we save it. Okay, so that's there. Let's just maximize this, and we gonna just reset our desktop here. Okay, so we are done here. Okay, so and then we're gonna show everything here. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we're going to learn how to import Illustrator files. In our last lesson, we learned how to draw objects using the rectangle over and other tools. But to tell the truth, it's far much more easier to draw pictures in Adobe Illustrator or to get pictures from Photoshop, because Flash's drawing tools are quite primitive if you want to get something really complex. Now, Adobe Flash supports a lot of file formats like Adobe Illustrator. So let's import our Illustrator file. Now, when we import these files, we're able to choose which layers we want to import and how they should treat them as layers, whether you want to treat as keyframes or treat them as different layers on our Flash timeline. So we've got to just click File, and we've got to just click on Import to Stage. Okay, so we're going to just come up over here and go choose Lesson 3, Start, and we're going to choose a Characters AI file. And click Open. Okay, so we get this Import to Stage dialog box. So let's make sure all the layers are selected, and a check mark should be selected over by the side here. Now, we only want to import certain layers, we can deselect them, but we're going to keep all of them. Now, what else are we going to choose over here? We're going to choose, make sure we're going to choose, okay, we're going to choose now. My screen size is really a bit too small for this. So I'm going to make sure the Flash layer is selected, and we just got to click OK. We just click Enter OK, and there we have it, our two characters here. And notice now there are two layers here. One is hero, one is robot on two different layers. Now, what is it about symbol now? These objects here are used for special effects, animation, and there are 3 types of symbols that we can create. We can create them as graphic or button or movie clip, And symbols help us to reduce time, for example, because if we duplicate these pictures, we don't have to store a separate drawing. They're just basically instances or copies of the same drawing. So it saves the file size and download time. So whenever you create a new copy, you create instances of them. So when we import from Adobe Illustrator, we can convert them to flash layers, keyframes, or convert it each to a graphic symbol, to a single flash layer. So think of symbols as containers or for your content, and when we look in our symbols here, we've got pretty nice drawing over here. So let's just select the hero here in our hero layer, and we can choose modify, convert to symbol, and we've got to just type hero. We've got to choose movie clip, and leave the registration point here at the top left, and click OK. Now notice what happens in the library. And over here you have a symbol that shows this gear icon, shows that this is a movie clip. Okay, so we've got to do the same thing for this one. Modify, convert to symbol, call this robot. Leave it as movie clip as well. So we have two clips here. So next we got import Photoshops for the background. Okay, it actually contains two layers with blending effect. Okay, so let's just choose the top layer here. Choose File, Import to Stage. And we're going to select the background PSD file, and we're going to click Open. So notice there are two layers here. So make sure all the layers are checked. And let's choose the flare layer over here. And we're going to choose bitmap image with editable layer styles. And what does this mean? Doesn't mean it's flattened. And notice it becomes a movie clip symbol. Now the other option, flatten bitmap, notice this symbol over here. It doesn't preserve any layer effects like transparency or blending. So it keeps the special effects. Okay, well, I'll choose a background layer. And we've got to choose bitmap with editable layer styles as well. Now over here at the bottom here, set the convert layers to flash layers option and select place layers at original position. Okay, so we also have the option of changing the flash stage size to the same size as the Photoshop canvas. But the current stage size setting is correct, so we'll leave it at that. So let's just click OK. And there we have it. It's set there at the background. So the layers are important to flash and placed into separate layers here. Okay, so we've got two different ones. One is the flare, and one is the flare, and one is the background. Now the blending and transparency effects are still there. So we select this. Okay, so notice there are different effects here. There's a lighten effect over here. Okay, so now we got to move our hero above and our robot above here. So there we have it. Okay, so now in the library panel, what we got to do now is we got to control click or right click or control click at the empty space and select new folder. So just like right click and click new folder here. So a new folder is created. Call this characters. And we got to move this over here and move this over here. So notice our characters are inside this folder. Now how we got to edit the symbol in the library, we just double click the robot movie clip symbol here in the library, and so notice that this is the symbol here. Now what happens here is that you notice over here, it takes us into the symbol editing mode. So in this editing mode, you can see the contents of your symbol. Okay, notice that we are no longer in scene 1, but inside the symbol called robot. Okay, so let's just double click this drawing to edit it. So we gotta click down several times to edit any individual shape. So for example, if I want to edit one of these objects here, if I want to edit this part here, or if I want to edit this part, so I have to come over all the way here to edit it. Okay, so let's just come here and just edit this part here. We got to select this part of the robot, and we got to choose the paint bucket tool, and I'm going to just change the fill color to maybe red, and notice it is automatically changed to red. Okay, so now when I go back to scene 1, okay, let's just click on next, the color has changed to red over here. So all instances of this symbol will have this red color as well. Now you can also edit symbols in place. So let's just use the selection tool and just double click it here. Now notice that when you edit it in place, the rest of the stage dims. You're still editing robot, but it allows you to see how it relates to the rest of your stage. So we're gonna do and edit another. Come back, double click it, click this one again, and we gotta just change the fill. Maybe we're gonna change the green, and that's it. And we can go back to scene 1, and here we are back to scene 1. Now, if you no longer want an object to be a symbol instance, you can use the break apart command to return it to its original form. Okay, so let's just make sure this robot is selected, choose modify, break apart. So it breaks apart the movie clip instance. What's left on the stage is a group. So we click on this. Notice it doesn't say robot, it just says group. And you can edit it as you like. Okay. Now you can have multiple instances. That means multiple, it's something like a copy, okay? So we've got to create a few more robots, and we're going to learn to change the size, position, even the rotation. So let's just select the robot, okay? And we're going to robot layer in the timeline, and we're going to drag another robot from the library into the stage. So come here, and we got to click it here and drag it. And look, here we have another instance of this robot. Okay, so let's just choose the free transform tool, so the control handles, and we got drag the control handles on the side to flip the robot so it's facing in the other's position. Okay. Okay, there you got it. And if you want it to be exactly the same size, it's 189. So for this one, you want it to be exactly the same, follow the same perspective, same scale ratio, so we can put it this way. Okay, so, and we're gonna make it smaller. But just by pressing the shift key. So we're gonna go back to library. And we're gonna move another robot here. So we can actually modify this symbol transform. We can actually flip it horizontally like this easily, rather than using the free transform tool. Okay, and we can just make it smaller if you want to. Let's move this guy over here. Should I use this? Okay, I'll bring this guy to front, arrange, bring to front. So there you have it. Now we want to be more precise in placing our symbol instances. We can use the XY coordinates in our properties inspector. Okay, so let's just come here and just choose view rulers. So notice the rulers are placed there, and 0, 0 is right at the top left corner. Now notice as I move around something, there are tick marks. The tick marks over there to show where is the left and right boundaries, and tick marks over here to show where the left and top and bottom boundaries of our object. Okay, so now you can come in and now notice I can drag a line from the top to make into a selection tool. Make into a ruler guide, sorry. Yeah. Okay, now we can just double click this one and we can move the guide to 435. Sorry, 435. Enter, and it goes down there. Okay, make sure you choose view, snapping, and we got snap to guides is selected. And now what happens is this, if we move something here, it will actually snap. To the line. So if I zoom in a bit, so notice it goes snaps. And it snaps. Now we can change the color effects of our instances. So we can change the brightness. So we can things like tint or transparency values. So let's just click this robot over here. I'm going to choose, go on the properties, there's a color effect. I'm going to choose brightness. And we're going to change the brightness to -40. So it makes it look like it's in the background. So now I'm going to go and choose the glowing orb here in the flare layer. And I'm going to go to the properties here and choose alpha from the color effect style to alpha. And I'm going to set it to about 50%. There we go. Now blending refers to how colors of an instance interact with the colors below it. Now you've got all sorts of blending options here. So for example, you can choose lighten, you can choose invert, you can choose screen, you can choose darken, you can choose normal, you can choose multiply. All sorts of different, you can use add, subtract options with from our previous to see how it interacts with the lower layer. So for example, if I choose this one, I can choose alpha, I can choose add, I can choose screen. Notice the different effects here, but we're going to just leave it back as normal. So let's go back to our orb layer here. We can add a blur filter. We can add several filters so that we can just have a different effect by giving a greater sense of depth. Okay, so some kind of focus blur. So let's select the orb and let's go to the filters, click the add button, and we've got select blur. Okay, so now we've got to use about 10 pixels. 10. Okay, so it shows a little bit blurred out. Okay, so there are actually plenty of different type of filters. You can try them out yourself. There's drop shadow, blur, bevel, gradient glow, gradient bevel. I used glow earlier with my text in my previous tutorial, lesson 2. So, and try out different effects here again, different settings. So there's too many options. Just play around with it. The more you play around it, the more you understand and get a feel of the tools. Now we can also do things like position in 3D space. Now I'm going to give you a demonstration here. So this is 3D space. Now the things about 3D space is that it's not just a flat surface. We can imagine that this is the X, this is the Y coordinates, and how far it goes in and out of our screen is the Z axis. So we've got to create a new layer here. We've got to call it text. We've got to choose the text tool. Okay, we got to choose what sort of font. Okay, so we got to choose what font. Okay, we just got to leave it as it is. Okay, maybe you want to choose copper plate. Okay, and we got to choose TLF text here, read only. And we got to choose this sort of font here. Maybe I got to choose Europa. Do they have Europa? Eurostyle, now that's a good font. Okay, and so we got to click here and go here, Mac walls. Change the size a bit. Okay, and we're done. So let's click on that. And so there we have Mac walls. So maybe you want to change the color a little bit more. So maybe you can change to white. Now we got to choose the 3D rotation tool over here. So what happens now is that there is this orb around here. So notice we can actually rotate it around. So you can use this one. We can use this one. Or we can even use this one. So this is the Z-axis. And there we have it. Okay, so that is the rotation in 3D space. I want it to have a little bit more. Okay, so that's Mac walls for you. So what else can we do? Okay, we can use the 3D translation tool to move it within 3D space. So the red axis is X, green is Y, and blue is the Z axis. So notice I can do this. This goes on the X, this goes on the Y, and the Z axis makes it move it more to the center, to the front of us. So let's look at the transformation panel. So if we want to change something, we can just open up the transform panel to come to window, choose transform, and you can see the 3D rotation values are all here. So we want to reset it, we just click on remove transform, it goes back to just original settings. And okay, so when we're using all this, when you're using the 3D transform tools, there's this option called the global transform. Now, when the global transform option is depressed, it is your rotation and positioning is relative to the global or stage coordinate system. And the 3D display over the object that you're moving shows the 3 axes in constant position. However, when it's turned off, the rotation and position is relative to the object. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how, if I turn this one off now. Okay, so let's say I turn, it is relative to the object. Okay. So just gonna show a bit more again. Now we have to understand one more thing about 3D, and that's this thing called vanishing point and the perspective angle. Now the vanishing point is where everything seems to disappear into, and it's determined by a set of horizontal parallel lines that converge together. So let's select this object here. So in the properties, what we're going to do now is that we're going to look over here, and we're going to expand the 3D position and view. Okay, notice over here. Okay, so what we have is the vanishing point here. So notice these 2 lines, this determines your vanishing point here. Now you want to reset it, just click on reset and you'll make the vanishing point the center of the stage over here. And that's it. That's how you manipulate objects in Adobe Flash.